Your best employee is working harder than everyone else. They're the first online and the last to log off. Everyone relies on them. And you think that's a good thing. It's not. It means your business has a single point of failure disguised as a high performer. You have someone on your team right now who is holding everything together. They're reliable. They're fast. They never complain. And you probably think they're fine. They're not. I work with a law firm where the intake conversion rate had crashed by 66% in 6 months. It went from 14% down to 4.5%. New leads were coming in, but almost none of them were converting into paying clients. The partners knew something was wrong, but couldn't figure out what. When we looked at the data, the answer was obvious. One person was doing everything. Her name was Mary. Mary was the intake coordinator. She was answering every new inquiry. She was qualifying every lead. She was following up. She was closing. She was doing the job of 3 people, and she was drowning. But here's the thing about people like Mary. They don't tell you they're drowning. They just work harder. They stay later. They absorb more until something breaks. In this case, what broke was conversion. Mary didn't suddenly become bad at her job. She became spread too thin to only do part of it well. When we mapped out what Mary was actually doing, we found 3 distinct jobs crammed into one role. The first job was the specialist. That's the person who takes the initial call, listens to the situation, and determines whether this person is fit for the firm. The second was the closer. That's the person who takes the qualified lead and converts them into a paying client. Different skill, different conversation, different energy. The third job was follow-up, chasing people who didn't respond, booking callbacks, keeping the pipeline moving. Mary was doing all 3 every day with no script, no process documentation, and no support. So here's what we did. First, we split the role. We defined the specialist function and the closer function as 2 separate jobs. The specialist qualifies, the closer converts. Clean handoff between them. Second, we hired intake support. Not a senior hire, just someone to take the follow-up and administrative load off Mary so she could focus on the conversations that actually mattered. Third, we built a 2-page intake script. Not a 40-page manual, 2 pages. It covered the qualifying questions, the handoff criteria, and the closing conversation. Simple enough that anyone could follow it. Specific enough that leads stopped falling through the cracks. The result? Conversion started recovering almost immediately. Mary went from drowning to doing her best work, and the partners stopped wondering why their marketing wasn't working. Their marketing was fine. Their intake was broken. Now, here's why this matters to you. Every business has a Mary, someone who's quietly absorbing work that should be split across 2 or 3 people. You don't notice because they're reliable. They don't raise it because they don't want to look like they can't handle it. And over time, the thing that they're really good at starts to suffer. Not because they lost the skill, because they lost the capacity. Here's the simple way to check. Pick the person on your team who you rely on the most. Write down everything they do in a week, not their job description, what they actually do. If that list has more than 5 distinct functions, you have a Mary. If one of those functions is revenue critical, like intake, like sales, like client onboarding, you're sitting on a conversion problem you can't see from the outside. The fix is almost always the same. Separate the functions, document the process, and support where the bottleneck is the tightest. You just need to stop pretending one person can do everything. See you in the next one.